So you want to stay in the game as a filmmaker. Well, I personally have been filmmaking for about 12 years now, so I know a thing or two about that. So take a seat, my friend, because class is in session. But first, hello. I'm Marissa Roxas, an independent filmmaker and freelance DP/CamOp based in San Diego, California. I also work a day job in the audio-visual industry, but we'll get to why that's important later. Before we dive into this lovely Miller note board that I prepared for all of you, first, we will set the vibes, because that's the most important thing. The vibes, always. Woo. So the first step to staying in the game as a filmmaker is that you must define what success means to you. So I prepared some questions to ask yourself when it comes to success in filmmaking. So let's just dive in. And I think the first thing that comes to mind is Hollywood important to you? Like, do you want to make it big in the mainstream, whatever that means? And by the way, this video, I'm not going to here to tell you what you should want for yourself. It's more of helping you think about what you want for yourself when it comes to filmmaking and your career. So yes, what does success look like for you? Does that include Hollywood? Or maybe it's just film festivals? Or does success look like dollar signs for you? Making a lot of money? Again, I'm not here to tell you what you should want. I'm just here to help you think about what you want. Next thing I want you to think about is like a holistic view of success. Like, obviously we're talking about filmmaking, a filmmaking career, but like, what do you want for your life at large? That's a bigger question. And in order to kind of tackle this, I wanted to share with you what my definition of success is, or at least part of it. I am primarily a cinematographer, a DP. So my version of success looks like me getting to be the DP, getting to do cinematography on shorts, features, music videos throughout the year for as long as I'm physically able to. I periodically want to direct my own films, shorts for now, features, we'll get to that. For me, success actually doesn't involve the typical Hollywood route, even then that's a whole discussion for what even that is today with the internet and streamers and all that. But anyways, we're not gonna have that conversation right now. For me, what I've realized is that the films that I make, if they are getting into film festivals, whether local or abroad or other cities in the US, that is success to me, or that's part of success for me. It's like so cool to be able to go to a festival and watch your film with an audience in a theater. There's nothing like it, and I think that's a big part of the reason why most of us do this, is so we could share our stories with audiences. And then when it comes to like a more holistic view, when it comes to like my version of success, specifically towards filmmaking, is that I hope filmmaking gives me the opportunity to travel, and I'm so happy to say that that has been the case for me. I'm not doing it all the time, but just as an example, I recently went to Vietnam to shoot a project with my good friend Lonnie, and then I've gotten to go to like Mexico. I live in San Diego, so it's not like that big of a trek, but still cool to get paid to film in a different country. Another part of my holistic view of success when it pertains to filmmaking is that I hope one day my filmmaking allows me to have time and location independence. That it still very much is a work in progress, but that's part of my vision for success. And last but definitely not least, I think this is probably the most important point for me, is I hope to do what I love filmmaking with people I love. And that's something that's been my reality for about like 4 years now. And I'm very lucky to say that my vision for success has, for the most part, come true so far. I'm still working on that time and location and independence, but everything else I've done. And so I'm very happy with that. And I hope that, for one, you determine what success looks like for you when it comes to filmmaking, but two, you also find that it's your reality sooner rather than later. So I'll end this section with basically what we're saying is vision. You must always start with vision. I realize that I'm like breathing in this, like too much of the smoke, so I'm gonna move her right here out of frame, but we still love her. So you know how in the beginning I mentioned that in addition to being an independent filmmaker, I also work a day job as an audiovisual technician, and that would be important later? Well, this point is where that becomes important. So the second way to stay in the game as a filmmaker is to, you guessed it, get a day job. And I bring this up because at one point in time, I had a lot of shame around having a job that wasn't directly related to filmmaking or the film industry. But it wasn't until I read this book, I'll drag it over here, but I also have the physical copy, Real Artists Don't Starve, where I realized that having a day job is actually what is going to help me be the filmmaker that I want to be. This is super straightforward, but I just want to say that if you have any shame in having a day job while you're trying to make films, is that there is no shame in having a day job, because we all have to take care of ourselves, and it does not make you any less of a filmmaker. Let me say that again. Having a day job does not make you any less of a filmmaker. As long as you're out there making films, you're a filmmaker. It doesn't matter what you're doing to support yourself. We all gotta eat, we all gotta pay bills. Do what you gotta do, and know that also filmmaking is one of the most difficult things to do. So if you're not taking care of yourself, it's very hard to do the hard thing of filmmaking. Yes, I'll leave it this point simple as that. I would highly suggest you read this book. I will link it below. It changed my life, not to be hyperbolic, but it did change my life. Again, because it just helped me be more pragmatic about being an artist and being particularly an independent artist. There's a lot of good, just like mindset reframes, and also just like understanding that artists throughout time have had day jobs. Like even Davinci had a day job. I think I'm actually gonna leave that there because that's something I tell people all the time that feel some type of way about their day job, is that even Davinci had a day job. And we'll leave it at that. Third way to stay in the game as a filmmaker is to always be learning. Now say it with me, class. Always be learning. There's always more to learn when it comes to filmmaking. There's never gonna be a point where you know it all. Straight up. And if you have that mindset, don't. So filmmaking is such a beautiful art form because there's so much to learn. And before we get into always be learning, know that you don't have to know it all. It's good to kind of be familiar with each part, each department, but you by no means need to be an expert at all of this. It's okay to specialize. If you're an independent filmmaker, it is good to be able to flex into other departments, but it's okay if you have a favorite thing that you like to do. For instance, again, I'm primarily a cinematographer who likes to direct every once in a while. So let's talk about this. When and where to learn filmmaking. And look, I went to film school. We'll talk about that again another day, but you don't need a film school. You don't need to go to film school to learn filmmaking. You just need to find a way on set. I'll make a video about how to find your way on set if you're not in film school. It's actually easier than you think. So when and where to learn filmmaking. First and foremost is every time you get on set, learn something new. It could be something as simple as a new term, film lingo and all that. It could be, oh, I know what that piece of gear is and does. Or maybe you're just observing how the director works, how they talk to actors. You could ask the first AC what they're doing. You can ask questions, be curious, of course. Know the appropriate times to ask those questions, but each time you step on set, just be a sponge and absorb as much as you can. You can also, if you have a camera, if you have friends that want to be in front of the camera, or pets even, experiment on your own time and have fun. I make these YouTube videos because I want to, and I hope I could share something helpful to you all, but I also do it because it helps me get better. Even though I'm not making a film every week, I'm still using my camera, I'm still editing in Davinci Resolve, learning how to color grade better. So there's always experimenting to be done, and even if you don't have a camera like mine, look, there's no excuse. We've heard it before, there's no excuse. We all have 4K capable cameras in our pockets. It's kind of crazy, you guys. And then I would say, if you're a little bit more advanced and you're already been shooting projects, is improve each project. So after every project, once you have the finished project and everything, like I would have a debrief, whether it's with your crew or even just with yourself, to kind of see, okay, what did I do well? What could I improve on? It's always good to reflect on that, because as I said, we always need to be learning, and there's never going to be a point where we know it all, because we're humble like that. And just so you all know, what I still am learning, and as I said, I'm always learning, even after 12 years, and I'm gonna be learning for the rest of time, is right now I'm really focusing on becoming better at color grading, being a more professional colorist, because I hope to add that to my resume as a freelance colorist. So if you want something color graded by me, hit me up. I'm getting better every day. I'm improving how I cover scenes, both as a DP and a director. And how am I doing that? Again, anytime I'm on set, I'm on a project, I'm always looking for ways to better cover scenes, learning from others. I'm also improving my communication with actors. So those are the things I'm learning, improving currently. But I think one of my favorite things about filmmaking is that, yes, there's always more to learn, and I'm always happy to be learning, and I hope you also adopt that same mindset. And so I will end this third point with, filmmaking needs to be experienced. To learn filmmaking, you have to make films. And once again, say it with me, always be learning, because there's always more to learn. And the fourth and final point is, fall in love with the process. I've said it once, I will say it again, and I will continue saying it. Filmmaking is hard. Filmmaking is so hard. If you talk to anyone who is a filmmaker and has been a filmmaker for over a decade, like I have, like I am, look, we're kind of crazy, because this shit is hard. And I don't think any of us would be doing it if we didn't love it. And I mean, love every inch of it, every single part of the process. Of course, I have my motivations for why I want to make films, why I want to tell stories, but I truly love the craft and the process of filmmaking. So my advice to you is to fall in love with the process. And that happens in two parts, really. It first starts off with the obvious. Find the parts of filmmaking that you really love, then get really good at them. Practice, experiment, just do it all. Lean into it. As I said, as a cinematographer, as a director, I lean into both of those things because I love both of them. Then, the second and potentially more important part is find the parts you don't love so much. Because as I said, I love filmmaking as a whole, but there are things that I'm not drawn to as I am with cinematography and directing. So when you find the parts you don't love so much, then I would like you to, well, collaborate with others who are good at the things you don't love so much. So again, to bring it back to me and my experience, just so you can see how this has taken effect in my life, is, we've heard it before, I'll say it again and again, the parts I really love are cinematography and directing, and the parts I don't love as much are producing and editing, or like really anything post. However, when it comes to producing, I would say if you are going to be an independent filmmaker and making your own films, I would say it is necessary to learn how to produce, at least to some extent. But since it's not my favorite thing to do, I find other people to team up with to create a producing team around me who, for one, enjoy producing, but two, are good at it. But I think the enjoyment part is more important than being good at it, because also producing is such a odd role. At the end of the day, it's the people that really love producing that are the best producers. I did that with my directorial debut, a short film called You and Me Will Always Be Back Then, which again, I will talk more about. I think I'm a good editor, but I wouldn't say I'm an editor. It's just being at the computer for 8+ hours is not my favorite thing to do. So again, I edited the project that I just mentioned. I edited You and Me Will Always Be Back Then. I'm never ever doing that again. I'm never gonna edit something that I've directed, at least not a full-fledged film. So in the future, I'm definitely gonna find an editor and build a huge post team around me, because post is super important. We will talk about that, but yeah. Find collaborators, find people who like to do the things that you don't necessarily like to do, and you know, obviously people who are more experienced at it. I think this last point is, like, when it comes to filmmaking, as I said, I love it. I love it all. I would say there isn't anything I don't particularly like dislike or hate. I don't hate producing. I don't hate editing. I just know that's not where my strong suit is. That's not something that, those are two things that I'm not naturally drawn to. I think I know how to do them when it comes down to it, but it's just kind of like, is it something I'd like to be doing all the time? The answer is no. So I'll end this point with, to fall in love with the process, because the process is everything. If you made it to the end of this video, know that I really appreciate you. Once again, I'm Marissa Roxas, a filmmaker based in San Diego, California, and I hope we meet again. And if you do plan to come back, let me know if you like this style of video, like you like this little setup here in my mirror. Anyway, yeah, let me know if you like this style of video, and I just might make more just for you.